Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope you're well. And I am producing yet another update because, and I think this, personally, is the most important update of them all because it has to do with financing and regarding Howard Terminal and some issues that have not been completely fleshed out post my interview with my longtime friend Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. And this has to do strictly with sources and uses. Now, what does that mean? Sources means where am I getting the money from? Uses means what am I spending the money for? Sources and uses. That simple document has not been done for now almost 3 years, going back to the day after California Governor Gavin Newsom signed SB 293 Skinner into law, which sent a signal to anyone paying attention that Oakland intended to use tax increment financing to pay for part of the construction of Howard Terminal, the infrastructure part primarily. So, as well as community benefits. That's why I said that. So, the city has had ample time to do sources and uses. I've done one on my spreadsheet as one example, a spreadsheet that you can see publicly at oaklandnewsnow.com. But the city itself has not issued a sources and uses document. I want to give you a feel for how long that's been and why it crystallizes a major problem in the way the city has tried to do Howard Terminal under Libby's administration. I'm not saying that previous administration would have been any better, but it signals some problems in our politics that Libby happens to be in the middle of right now. Arguably started with Gene Kwan and got worse. And I'm not talking about those personalities. I'm talking about more complex issue, but that issue is not for this. Right now I'm focusing on how sources and uses are just a simple document explaining how a stadium is going to be paid for, what the money is going to go for in a public-private partnership has been held up. I wanted to show you how these problems have caused that to be held up for so long. So the first thing that I'm going to do in this is go back to a conversation that I had with Oakland Athletics president Dave Covell back in July. As I make this date is October 7th of 2021. That goes back to July. The first one, the one I'm about to show you, goes back to July of this year. July. So let's just do some quick figuring. July, August, September, October. That's roughly 4 months. Okay. 4 months alone where they were looking for one document. 4 months. All right. And 4 months alone where that one document hasn't been presented. Where do I get that from? That's not my voice. You're about to hear A's president, and in my conversation, basically present that problem to me in the first of two interviews that we conducted this year. Not those weren't the only two, okay? So those weren't the only two by far. But here is Oakland Athletics president Dave Covell right now here in our conversation. And I'm going to say, take it away, Dave.
We have all that internal analysis, and the city has hired a series of consultants to hopefully do their own analysis on that. I haven't seen it personally, but it's an critical amount because it actually shows what dollars can be generated on what timeline.
Right.
And you can understand when you can do the bonding and all the critical pieces to make something like this happen effectively.
Yeah, and that's what, I'm glad you said that because I forget the spreadsheet. My point is, I haven't seen anything from Robert Gamble and his people at Public Finance Management that shows me a time series of tax increment financing. In other words, I'm saying, how are you guys talking about this? It's like you're flying without a net. It's like you're going around and you're like, oh, I can't figure out where it's going, but they don't know it. And yet they're talking about the shape of the district, and it seems like they've got it backward, as I would say. Excuse me for saying it that, but it's like, well, wait a minute, you're talking about the shape of the district, but you'd be talking about how much excess value you have up front. which leads to my question. Are you opposed to having, like, say, being the master developer and having a developer partner that would then build some of these structures with you up front so you can goose up the assessed value and get, a better tax increment finance bang for the buck?
Oh, we're very open to that. And we've actually met with a lot of local developers and even national developers on that. I think the key gating moment was to get the entitlements. Once we get the entitlements, then we can say, hey, this project, $12 billion, it's going to probably have 8 or 9 different partners involved. Someone's going to build a hotel. Someone's going to maybe help out with some of the horizontal infrastructure. Someone's going to build the commercial. Maybe we'll do some of the housing. Same like we did the same thing in San Jose. We just haven't got to the point where we get it entitled, and then you can have that second conversation. And it's just taken so long, Zenny. I mean, I think that's the struggle for us and for everyone involved with the A's, especially because our existing stadium is just really past its useful life, that we need to know. We need an answer. Even if the scary answer is no, we need to know, because we owe it to everyone to come to some type of resolution on this 20-year saga.
What's your position on, you got Lou Bobbitt's group, Dave Stewart, athletics legend. It seems like there would be this great synergy between the athletics, which also have an interest down in East Oakland. And if the city got religion and decided to follow SB 293 Skinner, you could park some money down there. Have you all ever got together and had a meeting and said, hey, look, this is how we could possibly get together? Has the mayor brokered that deal? Have you talked to the mayor by chance?
Well, we've been spending almost all our time on the waterfront deal because it's so big and there's so many aspects to it, Zenny. So we haven't spent a great deal of time on the Coliseum portion. Obviously, we bought the county out, and now we're kind of waiting to see how the city council addresses, the disposition of their share. For a long time, they were saying they weren't even going to sell it. They wanted a joint venture. We were open to that too. I think the key thing is about shared vision. Our vision for that property is an arena, and then public open space, commercial, residential, including affordable housing, and things like grocery stores. It's pretty similar to what Dave Stewart has said. An NFL team, I think, is a real challenge, because if you put an NFL stadium there, Zenny, it's going to crowd out space for some of that other development. You're going to need a lot of parking. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if that's the best use.
I'll stop that one right there, because that goes into the Coliseum issue. And that's the first one, all right? The second conversation we had also pointedly deals with the County of Alameda. You're about to see right now. And this one was held September 2nd of this year. And in a follow-up that Dave and his Caroline would provide to, or happy to provide. And this is Dave right here. This is September 2nd of this year. And this is where he's talking about the county issue, and then again, sources and uses here.
So all of those other processes are going, and really on the economic side, we're waiting to hear what happens with the county. The city's deal to us depends exclusively on having the county participate. And the latest couple letters from the county have been pretty discouraging. So that's a big outstanding issue, say.
First of all, let me just ask, has anyone calculated the loss to the county? Like I did, is 15%, which you can overcome by saying, okay, I'll attach 30 million to the base year assessed value, right? So it's something you can surmount. But has the city presented to you an alternative to get around the county?
They have not. They insist that the county has to be part of the deal. Our original proposal basically had a way to do it without the county, and but they insist that the county has to be involved, and that's their point of view, and so that means the county's got to opt in, and right now they haven't shown a willingness to do that, so we're taking a wait and see approach on that.
When was the last time you heard from the county, or have you tried to talk to County Administrator Susan Marinici?
Susan Marinici sent a letter to me and the mayor and Ed Reskin, the city administrator, about a week ago, clearly stating, this is her second letter to us in a month, that there would not be a vote in September, that the county was not going to take this up. It felt a lot like a no. I mean, we were pretty discouraged when we saw that. It's quite concerning. And if we are going to be relying on the county's participation with a binding vote later this year, that seems like a tough putt right now. So we're going to have to see how it all plays out.
How does that impact Las Vegas process, and that takes us into the discussion of Las Vegas and where we are?
Las Vegas is on its own parallel path. We're focused a lot on market feasibility and venue selection. We're also meeting with the local elected leaders, folks like Governor Sisolak, the county commissioner.
I'll stop it right there. We at that point we had, if I open the transcript and go through, we also talked about sources and uses then. And here he's talking about how Las Vegas can move a lot faster. But the bottom line is that even then, if you talk about sources and uses, if you know how much you can get without the county, you're already dealing with sources, okay? But as he said, the city of Oakland had not even entertained that kind of scenario at all. All right, it had not entertained that kind of scenario at all, and they had been basically they have their own way. They just have their version of how they can do it without the county, but the city is insisted, as David said, on doing it with their way. The city's way with the county, and the county has said, "Hey, we're not in the sports business," and the county has made comments that indicate that they're going to stand in the way just because of long-standing bad politics that goes back to 2012 and the A's lease. And this is 2022, 21, going into 2022, almost 10 years, right? So why stick yourself with that kind of bad, as I call it, bad juju? All right, and it's like it doesn't make any sense at all to do that. And yet that's what the city is doing. Now, mind you, these sources and uses, again, should have been done when SB 293 Skinner was first signed into law. They're not hard to do at all. They are not hard to do at all. And as Dave and I have talked about pretty much continuously on my program, they've been waiting on this and waiting and waiting and waiting. And so, and there's no use to do it. And the city could have said, hey, and well, why not do this version, right? But the city hired a new project manager in 2019, Molly Mabron, and didn't understand that it doesn't matter. Libby says, well, we're not dealing with redevelopment anymore. Really, you are. As long as you're using tax increment financing, you are dealing with dealing with redevelopment essentially. Period. End of story. Even if you're not acquiring land like we did in the case of redevelopment or eminent domaining, you are, as long as you intend to use tax increment financing to raise money to catalyze a development project, get something going, that's redevelopment as far as a lot of people are concerned, including myself. So the dynamics really haven't changed much at all. What has changed is that you have people in the city who do not understand, who work for the city of Oakland, who don't understand the numerical dynamics of tax increment financing. And it's proven just by what they say. They don't have to have an expression of their resume or anything, just with their comments. And the comments they tell the mayor, and they're feeding the mayor to say while she's talking, demonstrate that, straight up. Because Libby had to prepare for her talk with me. And that's why I was saying, hey, look, you know what? Let your friend help because you're getting bad advice. And it just looks, it looks pretty bad. Okay. Now, let me get to what the mayor said on this, and then I'll come back today, but let me get to what the mayor said regarding the problem. And so you can see her comments that we had the other night, which I've also locked in here. Here's Mayor Schaaf about the issue right here. And I'll play this right now. There's the mayor, and here we go. Where are we with the sources and uses? Because Oakland Athletics President Dave Cavana, I have talked a number of times about that. And what irks me about your consultant public financial management is unlike Hobbs and On in Las Vegas, a number of other people I've worked with, even as in this guy's, they haven't produced a sources and uses, and they haven't calculated an upfront bond issue calculation based on a debt coverage ratio of 2. We got $1.6 billion out of that tax increment revenue from that, assuming a $2 billion assessed value base year. Okay, so what's going on? It's taken them so long, and we still haven't gotten anything.
So, Zenny, this project is at a point yet where there's no final sources and use document, but I have seen many draft ones. They are draft. They are not appropriate for publication because they are not final. And the A's have seen draft sources and use budgets as well. They've been screen shared with them, but they've never been physically given one.
Libby, I'm going to say something as a friend. You share those with me, okay? Because the people that are sharing,
then it would become a public document.
Well,
we can't do that.
Confidential. Your people do not have my intellectual horsepower. You need to bring that to me for final say, because you're getting screwed by these people. Just saying, okay?
Well, when the time is appropriate, I look forward to hearing all of your wisdom. I know you have tremendous experience in this issue. You are an expert. And I also know you love Oakland, and you've got our back.
Yeah, and I help the people in Las Vegas. They asked me, you guys never asked. Just saying. That was the Raiders issue, okay? So, let's come together on this stuff, but me aside, all right? Back to the matter at hand. Why is it take?
I just want to freeze that for 1 second, folks, and explain something that really should be explained. At the NFL owners meeting in 2017, actually before the NFL owners meeting in 2017, and actually the NFL Spring League meeting in 2015, this is how far back this goes. Mark Davis asked me to come up with a stadium plan to retain the Raiders in Oakland. Mike Silver, my other longtime friend, I've known since 1986, was standing right here in front of me. Mark was over there. Will Kiss, PR director, was over there. And I went right to work. To make a long story short, I got Piper Jaffray investment bankers. Some of you may have seen this. If you type Oakland Coliseum reboot in Google to this day, it should be number one in the result. That's the website I retained the existence of. And I got Piper Jaffray investment bankers and Diane Poway, the managing director at the time, who I cold called. They've since changed their name. She put a 6-person deal team on this. We had a conference call. I created the first spreadsheet on this matter. They blessed the spreadsheet. They asked only if the financing, if the county of Alameda would be willing to backstop it. I said, that's not for me to address. That is for the city and the county. There's a way to do it without that. I gave the whole kit and caboodle to the mayor and to Mark Davis. Mark Davis didn't want to go in that direction. I was informed because Eric Grubman told me that, who's in the SVP in the NFL, but the mayor never got back to me, okay? And I gave the whole kit and caboodle to her and set it up very nicely for the city to do. So that was 2015. So that's the context. And thanks for joining me on my live show, folks. That's the context, but I have to finish this, but that's the context by which you're about to hear the continuation of takes place here.
Taking so long to get the financial part together and the numbers, and also why not move the county of Alameda out of the way? You don't need the county if you're not going to use the tax increment. You don't
need the county because we are using tax increment. We absolutely need the county. This project does not work without the county.
Ms. Mayor, it only takes 15%. They're 15% of it. That's it. You can make that up by adding 15% to the base year assessed value mathematically. If your consultants are telling you otherwise, we'll get in the room and we'll smash them in a...
Let me be clear about where my values are. Gotcha. We are never again putting the city of Oakland's general fund at risk.
Not the general fund.
Zenny, you asked me where I am on this. Let me speak.
Yeah,
and don't try and talk over me with all of your, I know you know your stuff. But I'm just telling you where we are and how we think about this. By using the county's participation, because remember, you had redevelopment. We don't have that anymore. California eliminated redevelopment. And so its stepsister, so to speak, is the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. We cannot, we cannot unilaterally impose that on all the taxing entities. We have to get them to vote to contribute their tax increment into the deal. And that's what we're asking Alameda County to do. And the reason why we need the tax increment financing district to be only over the project area and not what the A's proposed. They wanted a separate a separate area that was outside of the project area.
Yeah, you don't need
the way that we backstop or guarantee that we can service the bonds without ever using revenues that are not directly generated by the project itself is by also creating a community financing district on the project area. And that is an assessment that the A's themselves are liable for. So at any time the project revenues are not equaling the debt service, then that kicks in. They are the guarantor, not the city coffers, not the county coffers. And that is why our taxpayers need to know that we learn mistakes from the past. We are not repeating that terrible Raiders deal that we are still paying for while the Raiders are playing their games in Los Angeles.
As the person who told Dave Cavallo about EIDLs to begin with, section SB 628B, okay, I'm the person who knows the legislation. A. B, you can do the bond issue without a backstop to the general fund. If they're telling you it's a backstop, they're wrong. You can also use a private activity bond. Also, it's not a matter of the shape of the area. It's the assessed value at the base year, okay? Again, it's a math equation. You're working with the wrong consultants. You're getting bad advice, all right? That's what's going on here, and it keeps repeating itself. I agree with you. Don't repeat the problems of the past. Redevelopment is over here.
Any private placement bonds or limited obligation bonds are also a tool that we're looking at.
Obligation bonds are different from private activity.
I know they are.
No, but I know specifically how they're different, okay?
Lenny, is this a job interview or an interview?
I have a job. I own 68% of my stock here, okay? You should be on the board. You'd be great. You kick my ass that way too. So, right?
Well, listen, I think.
All right, so my point is that, I have no faith in PFM, okay, at all. And so in this, I have zero faith. It's not a matter of them. It's a matter of the city getting a job done, okay? Paul Rodriguez said, I have worked with, PFM, okay? I'm talking about this issue. And I know other people who work with PFM. I don't care. On this issue, PFM is completely mishandling it, okay? Period. I have zero faith in PFM. Zero on this issue. I don't care what else they've done. Understand? On this issue, this is dragged on for 2 years. All right? PFM ought to if you work for PFM, stay out of it. Okay? Because you're not going to do yourself any favors with someone who knows this project and has a decades-long history with it and its variants. It's not a smart thing to do. So if you're with any PFM in any way, you're being stupid by being here. All right? Just noting that. Back off. So my point is, and if you want to learn something new, you're really handling it the wrong way. So again, the problem is that you get your sources and uses up front. Folks, I was at a meeting, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, of a town hall that was put together by now Oakland City Council President Nikki Fortunato Bass on the 20th of November of 2019. And the potential size of the subsidy was known then. But the city didn't even want me to tell the people who were in attendance, 90 strong, about tax increment financing, the subsidy size potential, how assessed value is related to that at all. And you heard the mayor say this in my full interview. The city seems to be this idea that people don't want to hear this part of it because it's, quote, boring. It's not boring at all. It is not boring. Okay? So this is very important. When we've done tax increment financing, we've always gotten sources and uses out of the way up front, right now, fast. Period. End of story. All right. Period. End of story. Okay. So, period. End of story. All right.
upfront fast. Period. End of story. There's no excuse for hiding this from the public. This has gone on for years. Why? 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 And you know what, folks? The reason isn't a good one. They don't want the public to get spooked, or they don't want people to know they're using tax money, and then the council members say it's for sports when it's about a large-scale events center. Okay? There's no excuse to hold up this project. So don't be surprised if the A's happen to make magic in Las Vegas and decide to leave. Don't say no one told you. You know why here, what the problem is. This is over-politicized. You've got the mayor playing her politics. She's got to have the county involved. You have PFM having some agent come on here and try to basically defend their position and all that, when they should just simply stay out of it. And just simply give the city a sources and uses document. That's what good consultant does, right? And says, you know what? Here it is, okay? Rather than staying blank on this and allowing the negative politics to fill in the vacuum. I'm telling you, in this, nature abhors a vacuum. It's going to get filled, the idea about what Howard Terminal is, with something. You have to make absolutely certain it's filled with what the public needs to know to assuage their fears. And you don't make things up with the idea that the public is never going to do any research and find out what the truth is. That's a bad thing. There are people like me around. We're dwindling a number because we're dying. But we know how it's done. We remember how it was done. And we did the math. I remember I did some stuff for a guy named Angus McDonald. This goes way back. Angus was a consultant and worked for him for a part of a summer. But one of the tasks he would take on is what are called local agency formation commissions. And what he would do in those local agency formation commissions is come up with a cost to change an unincorporated place into an incorporated place, right? Well, I analyzed this formula. It turned out that his formula was overstating the number. So he got mad and fired me rather than redesigning the formula, which I actually did too. All right. All the consultants are white. They don't like somebody black coming in and saying, hey, you know what? You're not doing this right. It seems to have been my role in life. Anyway, stay tuned for more. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. That ends this broadcast.